Hello and welcome back. In the last episode, we looked at variables, and in this episode, we'll look at types in C Sharp. So let's create a new project. Move to the parent project, and here we're going to say .NET new console types. And now we go to types, and I'm going to open it. And here we can see the standard hello world. So if I open the terminal and I say .NET run, we see hello world. And what we saw last time is, for example, if we put here in I equals 5, 6, and we say console write line I, then we will see the 6 on the screen. And I have to save it first, of course. And there we go. And let's say that we want to have some more complex data structures, not just a single integer or a single string. Then in that case, we can define our own data structure in here, and we can have whatever data we want to put into it. And how we would do that, so let's say we would want the data structure that is page, let's say. Now, as a convention, we call our custom data structures with capital letters. So we will define it like this, page. And then here we would say, we would declare it like this. So we have a page, let's call it P. And P would have some text. So let's say P has some text like this that we want to display. And properties of our structure, by convention, we also capitalize them. So we would call it like this. Now, of course, page does not exist, so we would need to create this data structure. I can create it like this. We'll say struct from structure page, and then we can define text as string and with capital letters. Okay. Now the text field by default is private, so that means that callers of this page would not see its text. But if we want, we can make it public. Okay, and now if we go here and see what error message, use of possibly identified unassigned field text. So yeah, of course, the text is not assigned in this context. So we could say, for example, before displaying it, we can say text equals my text. And if we run this, we should see my text. So let's see, save it. And we see my text. And in the same way, we can add other fields in here, which is the purpose of having a separate structure, because otherwise we could have just used a simple string for the text, but we can add other fields in here, like public int number, as in the page number, and capitalize it, because it is public. And we can say that the page number is 10. And we can display the page number. And if we run this, we see 10 and my text. And you can see all sorts of purposes for this. So for example, instead of, if we don't use a concept of a page, we can use points. And a point can have an x and a y coordinate, or an x, y, and z coordinate. And then we can pass points instead of passing couples or pairs or triplets of integers. So it has all sorts of advantages of grouping together information into these structures, data structures. And now comes the another concept other than structures, which is classes in C#. So to better illustrate the difference between structures and classes, let me give you an example. So let's say that you have some printed pages. Now the information, the text on the printed pages is there on the page. So once you have the page in your hand, that information is in your hand. And now consider a web page. For a web page shows you some text, but when you see that text isn't in your hand, it's not there together with you, it's somewhere on a web server. The web page, in order to access the information on the web server, just has a URL. So the URL is just a reference to the information that is on the server, but it's not there in the same way that the text is on the printed page. So the printed page has the text on it, but the web page just has a reference, the URL, to the information which is located somewhere else. And we have the same difference between structures and classes. So you can imagine the structure is like the printed page, okay? And then we can have another thing called class. I'm gonna say here web page. And the web page can have, for example, public string title or header, capitalize it, and I'm going to say public string body, a body and a header. And there is a difference between how using structs and how using classes works. So now we don't have the printed page, so I'm just going to put here printed page, P, and this is all fine, and we print out the console. Now I'm going to show you something. What happens if we make a copy of the printed page? So I'm just going to make a copy, and we're going to say printed page copy equals P. Okay, so we just copy P into the variable copy. And now, let's say that we want to change the text of the copy. So I'm going to say copy text equals changed text. And now we're going to say console write line P number, console write line P text. And we're also going to display the contents of the copy. Copy number and console write line copy text. So I'm going to remove these here because we only want to see what happens after we made the change. So what would we expect to see? Because we only made the change to the copy, that means that the original should remain intact. Right? So we should see a 10 in my text, and then a 10 and change text. That would be the expectation. So let's see if we run .NET run. And then we see exactly that. So we see my text and then change text. But now, if we would do the same thing with the web page. So instead of printed page here, we would do a web page. And now we don't have number and text, but instead we have header and body. So we're going to say p header equals header, p body equals body. And we have another web page here, which is the copy of that. And And then the copy will have, let's say in the body, changed body. And now we just want to show the header and the body for the original page, and the header and the body for the copy. Now, well, before anything, we see that we have a problem here, and it says use of unassigned local variable p. That is because we cannot simply just declare a class the same way we declare a structure. We have to initialize it, because otherwise it would be like declaring a web page, a URL, to something that does not exist. So we need to create the data at the destination, and only then we can reference that data at that destination. So in here, in order to create it, we'll just say new web page. And now we can do everything like this. Regarding the copy, when we do the copy, we basically just copy the URLs. So this new web page copy basically has the same URL pointing to the same data on the destination. If we change the destination like this, then automatically both the original URL and the copied URL will point to the data that was changed, the same data that was changed at the destination. So in conclusion, what we expect to see in this case is we will see header and body, header and changed body for both for the original and for the copy. Now let's see if this is true. So if we run it now, and we see changed body and changed body, because making a change to the data pointed to by the copy affects both the original and the copy, because these are just URLs, basically, just references to the data. And by making this change, we change the underlying data for both the references. And now I would like to just show you another thing, what to do with this duplication right here, because we have a duplication in the sense that we write a header and we write a body, and then again we write a header and we write the body. So how could we eliminate some part of this duplication? For example, inside the web page, we can define a method that says display, and inside display we can have console line header, console line body. Now this is a function, so the function has to have a return type. In this case it's void. We will go into details about functions and parameters and so on in a separate video, but for the moment we just want to eliminate the duplication. And instead of writing all this here, now we can just write p.display. And instead of writing all this here, we can say copy. Copy.display. And theoretically nothing should have changed, because we just took the contents of those console write lines and put it inside this method, and now we just call the method instead of calling the contents as we did before. So if we run this again, we should see the same results. And we do. Of course, we can do the same thing for the structure, so it's not that only classes can have methods. Structures can also have methods, so we can define for the printed page here, we can say public void display. Then we can say number, and then console write And if we go back to the printed page analogy, we can declare a printed page. Printed page. And then we can say printed page number 10, printed page text. Text. Then we can say printed page display. And then we can do the copy. And then we can say printed, copy the text equals change text. And we can say copy the display. And the printed, so the copy is a copy of printed page. And for the web page, let's call this web page. And then we say web page copy. Oops. Great. And just for symmetry, you can just do these things like this here. So let's see. We declare the printed page, we make the copy, and we make a change, and we display them both. And then we do the same for the web page. We declare the web page, we create a copy, we make a change, and then we display them both. And if we run this, we see my text and change text for the printed page, and then header and change body for the web page. Oh, and I actually made a mistake here. And this is, I wanted to display the web page and then the web page copy. So save and run this again to make sure it's what we expect. And yep, we have change body and change body. And this concludes this video. In the next videos, we'll look at more features of classes and other fun stuff. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.